Hey, I see we're live already, but some of you will be filtering in still, thankfully, because I haven't plugged in my mic. So bear with me for a minute. I should have plugged this in ages. Actually, I put it on the outside. I should have plugged this in ages ago, but I didn't. Anyway, welcome to the Sunday service. The audio is about to change now. You can't hear me now, okay? Hear me now. Let me know if you can't hear that. Can everybody hear that? Okay, click the like button. Everybody click the like button. Make sure you can hear me now. Can you hear me? Everybody wants to check it out. Hopefully you can all hear me, right? I'm going to take a chance that you can at this stage. Cool, look how many people are coming. My God, what's wrong with you? Have you nothing better to do on a Sunday? Can you hear me? Yeah, good man. I like it. We got a first viewer here that tells me he can hear me perfectly. Thank you very much, Cad Boy. Well done. Neil, thank you very much for joining. Delightful to have so many people along. Click that like button so everybody gets a notification. And I'd welcome, I think the Northern Ireland Electric Car Club are going to join at some point. I think a few representatives will come from that. I also think some guys will come who are not electric car enthusiasts, which are pretty cool as well. Because I did a little video the other day, which some of you more intelligent persons got the point of, and other people took offence at, which is okay. That's kind of part of it as well. But that's all right. I don't mind that. That's normal on the internet for people to get very upset about, well, nothing. But while we're waiting for everyone to filter in, because there's 30 of you now, so everybody click the like button, make sure you notify all your buddies and pals and friends and stuff, and we get all the notifications out. We're 1 minute and 52 minutes and 52 seconds into this already. My God, this is going to be the quickest 2 hours ever. I'm delighted to see a lot of electric car owners keep an eye on what happens on YouTube. And I understand your reservations about me putting up a video that makes it look, well, difficult to get an electric car charged. For a quick explanation, the reason I put that video out the way it looks was a kind of a tongue-in-cheek look at what happens with electric cars, right? Because when I plug a USB cable into my laptop, which is sitting right here beside me, if I plug my USB, no matter what I just plugged in, the device will talk to the laptop and tell it what it is. And then between the two of them, I'll get asked a question like, what do you want me to do with this device? Do you want me to open it? Do you want me to archive it? What do you want me to do with it? And I select a choice, and that is the end of it. Chances are I only have to select that choice once, and it will continue to go. And you're talking about fairly relatively new devices that are able to do this by themselves autonomously very easily. Yet I go to an electric car charging station, I plug in a 30 grand car to a device that's kind of like probably 30 grand as well, the big fast charger unit, and then I have to tell it what to do next. That doesn't make any sense. And then the grammar on the screen, like, you know, plug the cable. It's really bad grammar as well. Like, this is simple user interface stuff. I know guys who design user interfaces for things, and they would just burst a gut if they looked at the screen of that, because it's dreadful. It's dreadful. You should be able to just plug in your car and the machine talks to the car and goes, yeah, you need electricity. I'm going to deliver this kind of electricity to you because that's the plug that fits. End of story. I shouldn't have 3 choices on the screen. Plus, I'm not driving a Nissan Leaf, so one of those choices should automatically be taken away. It's pretty straightforward, and that's easy as ever. Paul Webley says, because it's agreed USB single standard, and that all hardware manufacturers to follow. That is correct, Paul. That's because they've agreed a single standard, and electric car manufacturers have not agreed a single standard. And you have the ESB over here, which is the easiest one, because we only have one supplier. As I pointed out in that video, I had one card, one supplier, across the board. I can get electricity anywhere with one card. And yet when I go to the charge point, it's 3 different cables, or 2 different cables, or there's only one option, like the slow charger, where there's only one single option. You got to get the cable out yourself. Even I went out to Junction 14 Mayfield, who had the first charging station that I can remember being built in the area. And that charging station is gone, and it's been replaced with something else entirely. So I don't know what's going on there, but you got to think of that. Do you think this is the future? No, I don't. Well, yes, I do. I do think electric cars are absolutely 100% our future. I don't think the way we currently charge is the future. Simply because it's awkward. You pull cables out of boots, you trail things across the ground, you click things into this and that and the other. It's really aggravating. It's not as straightforward as it should be. It should be much more straightforward, particularly if you're confronted with a screen that is not playing ball, that is a bad user interface. Because like if I asked you to download an app today, if you can download it, you should be immediately familiar with how it works. That's it. There's no question. If you have to think about something you're going to uninstall, you'll probably never open the thing again. If it's any bit difficult, it won't work. Now, if I can do that with apps, if I can do that with a user interface, there's absolutely no reason why electric car manufacturers, the makers of the charge point stations can't do that with their UI. Even bad grammar is inexcusable for a start, even just if the thing worked properly in the first place. Sorry, I've missed a few questions now. Hold on a second. John Fitzgerald says, I have an Auris hybrid looking to move to a plug-in range extender of some sort, 40-mile round trip, well worth it, I think. 40-mile round trip, you could go all electric there, John, but if you wanted to go a bit further on the weekends, you wanted the security of running a petrol, definitely the Ioniq has a hybrid version of it. The Prius have a plug-in hybrid. I'll be testing that in a few weeks' time. That's very good. I had a soft spot for the Prius, I have to say. I kind of like the looks. I'm a bit weird like that, I suppose. Do you think it's the future? What is your favourite electric car, Bob, apart from the Tesla? Tesla would even be my favourite. Even if I had to pick one, it probably wouldn't. The only reason I like Tesla was a very simple thing. They're fast. The range is very long. I kind of like that. But all electric cars can be fast if they want. The range is very good in a Tesla. But when you set a sat-nav in a Tesla to where you want to go, it tells you how much charge is left when you get there. Before you even set off, it's already telling you how much charge you're going to use. So that security made me feel very good. And so a Tesla for that reason, but you'll find other car manufacturers will cop onto that very soon and that will happen. That wasn't in the Ioniq. Ioniq was very good. There's a long range Nissan Leaf out now, is very good as well. Nissan Leaf has always been the king of that segment because they were the first. And if Renault ever, watch out, used car buy. Here's the best advice I can give you for used car buys. If Renault ever get around to cancelling the lease agreement on batteries, the first generation Renault Fluence ZE will go dirt cheap. And you'll be able to get a full electric car with warranties and everything still on it. It'll be fine. When am I going to review the Skoda Karoq from Neil? Whenever it gets to Ireland. It isn't here yet. We haven't had an actual launch. Actually, I don't think there's even been an international launch of that thing yet. I don't know. I haven't a clue about that one, but there hasn't been an Irish launch, so it's due out. It's meant to be on Irish roads in January, but that means it'll probably be in the showrooms in September, somewhere around there, September, October. Paul says, just another VHS Betamax situation. Eventually the best system will win out. Surely not enough electric car. Use a force to decision. Yeah. The problem with that, Paul, I agree with you. You're absolutely right. There is a point where one system will win out over the other. VHS and Betamax was deciding whether to spend £200 on one thing or £200 on the other thing. This is deciding whether you're going to spend 30 grand on one thing or 30 grand on the other. There has to be a point where the security of knowing that it's future-proof, and this is the problem for EVs at the moment. The massive problem that they have is that people are put off buying it because they're afraid that next year we're going to have batteries that'll do 500 kilometers and they'll have bought in at a 200 kilometer range. Okay, and it's the speed of progression. Whereas with petrol and diesel, people know exactly what's going on. They know the range, they know the thing. I know there's a bit of a debate at the moment. Audi are recalling 800,000 Audis from across the world and being investigated for cartels. Now we'll get through that. They'll all get through that eventually. It's just right now the environment is very high on the priority, and the Volkswagen Group have been caught with their pants around their ankles when it comes to electric cars. They just haven't got a good one yet. They'll get there, but they've just got a Golf, and that's just a Golf electric. That's all it is. What's my favourite hot hatch? Golf GTI Club Sport. It's a little on the pricey side, but it'd be one of my favourite. Standard Golf GTI if you can't afford a Club Sport one. Golf R is brilliant, but you'll absolutely break the bank keeping that thing running. It's going to eat fuel for you all the time. They're not bad, but they're not great either. A GTI will get you all the fun you ever wanted, and if you really want to cut back a little bit, the Renault Megane RS, if you can buy it used, is a bloody good car, really good car. I think Tesla is going to maneuver its position in the US, currently the most available charging stations, but as long as the lower cost lines grow, we will see the normal car driver joining in. The problem for the normal car driver is security. It's always outgoing. There's always a problem with the amount of money that has to be spent to get this technology moving. And you have the situation like I had the other day when I'm trying to charge a bloody car, and you're confronted with new choices and new options and new cables and new things you have to do. People are just put off by that. That was the whole point of that video, was to show the tongue-in-cheek side of electric car ownership. The amount of EV drivers come on and go, you're obviously making a wrong choice. Some people really got that. You're absolutely right. I was making a wrong choice on purpose, because people make wrong choices. People put petrol in a diesel car regularly, okay? People always make a wrong choice. But if you're confronted with a UI that says the charger is broken, the charger is not operational, you're just going to blame the charger. It didn't say there's nothing connected to me. It didn't say you're trying to deliver the wrong power. It didn't say connect this to this and do this and do that. It didn't say any of that. It just says charger error. Goodbye. Farewell. That's it. So until you get a good UI attached to the thing, then you might start getting a bit of motivation. Don't forget to click that like button, guys. There's a good few of you here now. We want to make sure everyone gets a chance to join in and share their opinions and share their thoughts on electric cars or any other questions they might have. I opened this floor specifically to get electric car owners onto the case and onto the ideas of what they're doing, but also the petrol heads who visit this channel. And 94% of the audience that come to this channel is male. I know all you men out there to watch this. I wonder what the women do, though. Sorry, women. What's your thoughts on promised lowering of speed limits to 110 kilometers an hour? I sent you a link on Facebook. Correct, Sean. There is a proposal right now to, well, I won't say proposal, but there is some thoughts on the table, some softening of the attitudes on the table about changing the speed limit in Ireland on motorways to 110 kilometers an hour to lower our CO2 emission, not from a safety standpoint at all. Now, Spain put this out a couple of years ago as well, saying they're going to do the same thing. But unfortunately, Spain is the size of Venus, right? So driving across Spain takes forever anyway if you do it 120 kilometers an hour. 110, and you're going to take years to get there. So it lowers CO2, correct. The lower the RPM in the car, the lower the CO2 that's been emitted from the back, the better fuel economy comes out. That's all wonderful stuff. It's lovely to think like that. But in the real sense of the world, I would probably say, now this is just off the top of my head, 50% of the drivers on the motorway actually obey this current speed limit at 120. 110 is just going to cause more frustration, more problems. There should be more encouragement to get people out of high emitting CO2 cars on long distance daily journeys, and more encouragement people get into low CO2 cars, like an electric car, like a hybrid, like a plug-in hybrid, and try to get people moving in that direction rather than creating new laws and new money generators by putting out speed cameras on motorways. Neil says the problem with electric cars, there isn't enough infrastructure yet, plus there needs to be mass production of electric cars, and for me to buy one, they need to be cheaper. I don't know about cheaper. Currently, an electric car can be gotten for about the same price as a standard 5-door family hatchback. So, I don't know about cheaper, whether you need to go any cheaper than they already are. Now, okay, if you're looking at the Tesla stuff, which is ridiculously priced, it's way overpriced. Whatever Bobby Llewellyn says, it's way over the price it should be. But because the tech is as old as the hills is in it right now, and they're still charging 80, 90 grand for them. But so the infrastructure in Ireland, now I can't speak for other countries, although I know the infrastructure in the UK is growing rapidly, but there is an awful lot of players in that field. The infrastructure in Ireland is actually quite good, particularly the slow charger stuff, but the fast charger stuff isn't up to standard quite yet because they cost a lot of money. Sorry, following behind the questions already. My God, it's only starting. John says, be interested to see the UK lease rates on Tesla Model 3 if it's based on the residual value. It should be keen. I think there'll be lots of road on the road here since one right-hand drive manufacturing starts. There will be, yeah, Tesla Model 3 will set a new standard for what Tesla's doing, and in a way will cheap. Oh, I hate to say the word cheapen, but will bring the value of the brand up and down, so make it a little bit more affordable. Now, the trouble is convincing people into Tesla, convincing people into an electric car, and convincing people into that lifestyle is a lot harder than anyone who already has an electric car will think, okay? I always try and think of the lowest common denominator. When I'm making a video, I always try and think of a guy who's never heard of an electric car before, and we'll take it from there, okay? Rather than kind of preaching to the converted already, which is not something I tend to do. Hi Bob, what happened to the French air car, Lee, Copenhagen? Hi Lee, French air car? Running on air? I haven't a clue. Don't know. These airy-fairy things that come along. Often what happens is a company who does something will release a press release going, we have invented a hoverboard that actually hovers and flies in the air and does all that sort of stuff, because they're looking for funding. They're looking to see if people get going on it. But really, we don't know what the next fuel is going to be, whether it's going to be hydrogen. It will be electric. I think there's not short term, but I think there's a decade in electric. Then we need to go hydrogen, or we need to go something else. I don't think electric is going to be the actual long-term solution into the far distant future. Speed limits was in Germany last week. Unrestricted section left. Yes, it is. Absolutely. The Autobahn feels like a very, very safe place to be because the people are trained to be there. Part of the German road test when you go and get your license over there is to go onto the Autobahn. So they're used to being on motorways. They grow up with it. They get used to it. It's a big country. It's very hard to cross the thing anyway. It's very busy. It's actually quite hard to get to the top speed of your car unless it's very early in the morning or very late in the evening. During the kind of busy times, the Autobahn is like a no-go. It's like a standstill in places. But it's very cleverly laid out. It's very simple. Lots of speed signs, lots of information about junctions being ahead, lots of over-the-road traffic signs telling you to slow down, speed up, there's a thing ahead, something ahead, all that sort of stuff. So the Autobahn works in Germany. I don't know if the Autobahn will ever work in Ireland or the UK. Particularly in the UK, it's a bit busy in the UK, in fairness lads. Every time I've driven in the UK, it's been absolutely flat out. But I'd like to see more talking. I'd like to see the government stand up and go, let's get a group of journalists in who represent the actual car buyer, like us, right? Like me. I represent you guys and people who buy cars all the time. So I'd like to sit down and talk with them, not just me, but bring in a group of journalists. Let's get some thoughts on the table about what can and can't be done, because we're on both sides of the fence. We like to drive cars, but we also like people to buy cars, and we like people to make sure the industry keeps moving forward. But we're not in the industry, so I don't sell cars. Okay? What car do you think you'll buy next? An electric car. That's what I'll buy next, Cian. Without a shadow of a doubt. I'd probably, right now, financially, I wouldn't be able to go out and buy a brand new car, without a shadow of a doubt. But I might be able to afford a second-hand Nissan Leaf. Maybe, something like that. It'll be definitely electric because our second car here, the Leon, does absolutely zero mileage. Thoughts on a Renault Talisman? I didn't see it. I've seen it, but I haven't seen it driving here in this country, and I don't think we're ever going to see it here. Hi Bob, any word on the range of new Leaf due to be launched September? No, I would say that Nissan is holding back a little bit because they want to see what happens with Hyundai. Currently, Hyundai at 280 kilometers, what they claim. I actually got a little touch more than 280 kilometers out of that one, Hyundai. I got like 295 kilometers out of a full tank of that. But anyway, 280 is the what they say is the highest amount of mileage anyone's ever had in a electric car in Ireland. The Leaf, I reckon, will probably be about the same. I'd say it'll be 280, 290, 300. But Leaf is still the king of the segment. It's still no explanation. Hyundai Ioniq requires an explanation. If you say I have a Nissan Leaf, everyone knows you're driving an electric car. And the story is easy, isn't it? But Leaf doesn't have a hybrid and doesn't have a plug-in hybrid. That's where the Leaf or the Ioniq will win, and the Prius. Being interested in cars, I'd assume you're also interested in Formula 1 as well. I used to be, Anthony, a very long time ago, before it became this one-horse race and the one who had the most money won. That's the way it was for a good decade there. It's starting to wind back towards an actual competition again, and it's starting to get a little bit more interesting. My favourite to watch would be road rallying, so Rally of the Lakes here or whatever. And I'd like BTCC, so British Touring Cars, are apps. That's the best crack. This rubbing is racing is just the best crack of all. But I do like the way Formula 1 is starting to move. It's starting to go back the way it should do. But right now, it's not in the right place still. But it's getting there. Do you think diesel will be around in 10 years? Absolutely not, Steve. Diesel is the worst pollutant that we could possibly have. And currently, there's many car manufacturers. I actually said a couple of years ago, when Dieselgate broke for Volkswagen, I said on radio, and I said on national radio as well, that it was the ones who weren't sparking up, the ones who weren't coming on and going, well, we didn't do anything with emissions, we've never cheated on our emissions. They were the ones you got to watch. And now look where Mercedes is. They're being investigated as well. You'll find a BMW right behind them. You'll find out all the German guys are all going to start being, we didn't know what to do. So diesel will have to go. as a fuel the way it currently works. Petrol will have to go as well. We're going to have to stop burning fossil fuels. It's a ridiculous race to the end anyway, because it can't go on forever. It is basically melted dinosaurs. That's really it. Like, increase to 150 kilometers an hour, then spend less time on the road and causing pollution in the atmosphere. It doesn't quite work out that way, Sean. Unfortunately, the faster you go, the more pollution comes out, no matter how long you spend on the road. What about hydrogen Honda? The problem, Neil, for hydrogen is extracting the hydrogen. It's not really storing it or doing it. Well, okay, we need an infrastructure to go with it, a bit like electric needed infrastructure 5 years ago, which you kind of have now. But it's a liquid fuel, hydrogen, so it has to go in the ground, a bit like petrol has to do. So we need a new infrastructure to go with that. But the problem isn't really that end. That's physical things. We can do all that. But the problem is on the other end. Extracting hydrogen is really expensive. It ain't a simple process. It's a really hard fought process for everyone to do. It's the same process as making a nuclear bomb, put it that way. So we have the same problems as that occurs as well. Plus, there is the changeover in thinking. That would be the next part as well, as what hydrogen is going to do. Wow, a lot of questions there. Be sure to click that like button there, guys. And don't forget, in Ireland right now, Super Chat has arrived. We finally got it. So if anybody actually wants to donate a little bit of money, you don't have to go to the Patreon link. You can click the Super Chat icon down there. And I get it like I don't know. No one's ever Super Chat. It's a brand new thing. But if you super chat me, I think your message appears in a certain kind of color on the screen as being a super chat, and it comes up on my screen full size as well, and I get to see the super chats happening in front of me. So check it out. Click the super chat button and see what happens. I don't actually know what happens actually when you click the super chat button, so click it and see what happens. I'm sure there'll be something going on. But make sure you click the like button. Whatever else you do, click the like button, will you? Who is that person? Stop. Right, there we go. Hi Bob, what do you think of the new Mazda 3? How does it compare to the new Leon or Golf? In particular, can you comment on cabin noise, considering buying one? Mazda 3 has always been a good, solid, honest car from Mazda. Probably, I would say, nearly their best car. Mazda is one of those companies that doesn't have a bad car in the lineup. Not really. They've got, okay, some of them are a bit similar now, but all the cars are pretty good, and they're pretty standalone as well. Mazda, though, tend to have a firmer suspension and a firmer kind of gear shift, gear throw, and heavier steering. It's much more sporty. Think of Jin Bai Tai and Horse and Rider in One and all these phraseologies. It's all about driving. So Mazda like to do that. So, but if you look through the Mazda range, the Mazda 3 stands out as being a pretty good car, although rear headroom is a bit tight and the boot is a little bit small. If you wanted to go a traditional route of Volkswagen Golf, you want to look a little bit different, I'd certainly consider the Mazda 3 without a doubt. Sorry, I just deleted somebody. Thousands of questions belong to one person there. If you're going to ask a question, there's so many questions fly up on the screen. I'll answer any question you have, but just try and gather your thoughts, write one question, stick it on the screen, and I'll answer that. Rather than every time I comment, I get a new comment, right? The Autobahn around Hamburg and Dortmund is a nightmare. Imagine the M25 on steroids. Correct, Mundo. I've driven at the bottom end of Dortmund. There's a section, a fast section, and you get these little Ferraris that go up, meow, 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 and they go by at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you're in the middle lane on flat out speed on something else, and then you get a prototype will pass by every once in a while as well. Hey Bob, I currently drive a 16 plate FR. That means that's 2016. I take it 16 plate FR for my next car. I probably want something faster. You want something faster? Oh yeah, FR. Okay, yeah. Hot hatch maybe. There before selling new premium brands. Do you think the Cooper 300 would be cheeky? Cooper's never been a bad buy. I've always enjoyed the Cooper. I think it's good crack. It's what Seat should have continued doing. Instead of making normal cars, they should continue making crazy yokes in the Volkswagen group. But Cooper's very, very good. I'd hang about though. 300 might be a bit crazy to have through the front wheels, but that slippy, that special differential that they got is pretty good. In fairness, it will do. So I would hang around, yeah, for the 300. No, that's not. Still going back. Sorry, I'm going back and back and back and back on all the questions. Yeah, there we go. Right. Any thoughts on new Hyundai Kona? No, I haven't seen it, Anthony. I will check it out though. Before the end of this view, I'll check it out. I don't know what that means. What about the WEC and IMSA? Don't know what that means either. I haven't time to think about that sort of, what's that mean? Cheers, Bob. Recently drove a friend's smart car on the highway. God, did you? Smart car, that's scary. Got blown over viciously by the wind. Is it possibly partially fix it, less, more air in the tyres? No, it's just it's power to weight ratio. It's also the weight of the car on the road. If it's very, very light, you're just going to get blown around the road. There's no good way out of that one, unfortunately. Hi Bob, the new Nissan Leaf will be a game changer in 2018. Nissan have a lot of experience in the EV market compared to Tesla. Hopefully, be better looking than the outgoing model. Brendan. Brendan, do you work for Nissan, Brendan? Do you work for Nissan, Brendan? I think so. There's loads of people come here to work for the car companies. It's great. I'd be delighted to see a brand new Nissan Leaf come. Although it's nice to see a car that's a little bit different. Dragons and mushrooms are real good. I'm delighted for you that you think that the dragons and mushrooms. We should watch more Game of Thrones. Clean diesel is coming now. There is a statement that means zero. Clean diesel. Also getting more fuel economy because you use a certain brand of fuel. These are all nonsense statements. There's no such thing as clean diesel. There never will be a thing as clean diesel. It is a fossil fuel. When you ignite it, you turn the energy from that fossil fuel into burnt energy. That burnt has to go somewhere. We can add ammonia to that, which is what AdBlue is. You know, pig piss is basically what ammonia is, right? It's added to the diesel particulate filter to make it burn at a lower rate, so it burns it again and still emits the fuel out the back. If you put out 102 grams of CO2, that sounds deadly, doesn't it? Per kilometer. Doesn't sound so deadly. Okay, so just remember that. It's tons of CO2 that all cars put out on the road. That's okay, I can live with that, but it just doesn't get any better than that. And clean diesel, there's no such thing. And there probably never will be. There's no such thing as clean electric either, really. There's cleaner electric, but there's no such thing as clean electric yet. Until we have renewable resources like air power, like hydro stations, like harnessing it from the sea, from the wind or whatever, until we had those kind of things, we're never going to see any properly clean things. Even in Ireland here, we burn peat for electricity, for God's sakes, like the dark ages. Current gas infrastructure can cope with hydrogen. Current gas infrastructure can cope with hydrogen. Probably. What do you think of the new 2-litre turbo Hyundai i30 hot hatch, Bob? I should Ford and VAG be worried. No, I wouldn't worry about it. I'll tell you why I wouldn't worry about it. Hyundai have a habit of going, and Kia do this as well, because they're the same company. They go, here's our new car. It's sporty. It's brilliant. We're going to try this. And they do it, but the steering isn't quite right, or the seats isn't quite right, or whatever. It's like a Korean interpretation of a German car. And then kind of second generation, to get it a bit righter and things start to look good, they get it right. And then they screw it up again, the third generation with electromechanical steering, because the whole world is shifting so quickly that, like, the amount of people coming through who are young kids, 10, 11, 12, who have zero interest in cars. None whatsoever. Not in TV shows. I mean, we don't have a Knight Rider. We don't have the A-Team. We don't have any of those kind of programs on TV anymore that show the car as the star. And so there's these problems that mean that people aren't really interested in cars anymore. So nobody cares about a hot hatch in the future 5 years from now. People want a hot hatch now, and it's people my age and younger. Diesel will never go. Trains, lorries and all sorts require diesel. Fernando, you're incorrect. Yesterday, was the day before yesterday? I can't remember. One of the days this week, I drove up to Dublin and I saw a Iveco truck driving around completely powered by electric. A 20-foot, rigid body, driving around completely electric powered. A mate of mine sent me a picture recently from Italy and showed me one of those little Piaggio delivery trucks that they use, electric. Everything's going electric, I'm absolutely sure. Trains are already electric in fairness. Most trains in the world, apart from these big old diesel yachts we have here in this country, are electric or partially electric at some point. And the big long range lorries and trucks, they'll just slow down and they'll be electric. We'll find a way. It all has to go eventually. We will run out of diesel. What would you have out of the BMW 4 Series, Mercedes E-Class Coupe and an Audi A5? Anthony, that is a question that hurts the brain. Right there. Wow, I don't know. I'll come back to that one. 4 Series is very handsome. God, it's very handsome. E-Class is very good, but it still has the old man connotation. I think I'll go Audi A5. I think I'll go Audi A5 in that one. Yeah, because it's got a sporty angles, really pretty, really good. It's outside my front door right now, Audi A5 convertible, but very sporty, very classy, very stylish. Just don't really want to use the back seats that much, but everything else is pretty good in it. Bob, Cars and All, says, welcome Cars and All, I think you remember seeing your name before. What percentage of Ireland's power stations are fossil fueled? If there was a mass migration to electric cars, would there be just a huge increase in fossil fuel burned at those power stations? There is always a surplus of power generated by electric supply boards. And I know to some degree, the ones like in the UK, they're under massive pressure all the time, but they also look for more funding quite regularly, often give out about not having enough power. In this country, we generate probably about 80% of our actual generation of fuel comes from some sort of renewable resource. Now, the problem is that there are companies coming to this country that are building, and you can check this out for yourself, they are building wind farms, they're buying property, buying land, they're building wind farms and then exporting it, right? So the power that's generated by the wind farm is being exported out of the country. And we're allowing this to happen. Our government is allowing this to happen. And we're not building enough renewable resources ourselves. Electricity claim that they are building wind farms in this country as well, that are using them here. But you're still looking at a huge proportion, across the Midlands particularly where I live, of fossil fuels or peat-powered power stations in this country, where we are literally tearing asunder. Bord na Móna is ripping up millions of years of bog, by huge machines that just lay waste to property for millions and millions of square kilometres, and then just burning it to create electricity. Until we're in a position where we generate enough electricity from renewable resource, electric cars here will always have that kind of dirty aspect to them, but it's not as dirty, still not as dirty as running. You take 10 diesel cars and put 10 electric cars in their place, you will definitely see a difference between the two. But the object here has never been to get 100% electric. The object here is not to get everybody. If you take all of the cars in Ireland right now, and I don't know how many there are, but if you take all the cars in Ireland right now and replace them all with electric cars, that would be doom. That's the doom, right? Because that's never going to happen, never going to get that position. And it's always going to be difficult to do that. The trick is to replace a certain proportion of the cars, particularly the short journey cars, with electric cars today. That would be the best option we have right now. Hi Bob, when Ireland goes road tax free, Ireland won't ever go road tax free. If there's one word in the whole of Ireland that upsets everybody, it's tax. If I said to everybody in Ireland now that I would get that all electric cars were tax free, everybody would be in electric cars tomorrow. That's just the way Ireland is. Whether it worked or not, whether it was suited or not, they'd all go out and buy one anyway. Bob, what part of Wexford are you from? Wexford? I'm not from Wexford. I'm living in Portlaoise, which is in Laois. I'm originally from Kildare Town, which was in an Audi A4 or A5 video I put out this morning actually. I drove around Kildare Town in that one. So I'm not from Wexford, but I go to Wexford quite regularly. Andy McAfee. In Northern Ireland, electric charge points not in regular enough use are to be removed totally. It is a bit short-sighted. Yeah, it is. That is short-sighted there, Andy. Are similar policies in place for ROI removing public charging points? They probably are. We don't talk about them here. The government at least don't talk about them here. It's up to the ESB, really, the Electricity Supply Board here in this country, as to what they do. They planned obsolescence and planned replacement at some point as well, because fast charge stations have moved on from the kind of, as fast as they were, they're faster now. They're able to deliver more power now and able to do it a little bit quicker. The slow charge stations still haven't changed much. They're pretty much the same. But in this country, we do have planned obsolescence for those sort of things. But as far as I'm aware, there's none of the electric charge points been removed in Ireland. We've only added consistently up to this point. And as more pickup happens as we go along, hopefully we'll continue to see more and more of these charge stations come out. And people start to use them properly, which would also be helpful. If you didn't go to a charge station and find an ordinary ICE car sitting there, thanks very much. Bob, what do you think of Volvo's decision to go with hybrid cars going forward? That's scary, Daza. I have to say, if I was Volvo, I might have skirted around. I'd give myself another 5 years on that one. That's going to be a difficult choice. Imagine a fleet manager who buys 200 cars a year, every single year, walks into a Volvo dealership and goes, I want 200 Volvo diesels. What happens then? What goes on then? The actual statement, in fairness to Volvo, right? Let's clear this up. I was trying to read between the lines for you. I'm not saying this is what Volvo's doing, but the actual statement said that Volvos would no longer manufacture diesel engines after 2020, right? That means that Volvo themselves won't manufacture them. Doesn't mean they won't install them in cars from someone else. Okay, that just leaves that door slightly open. Just not, don't want to state that obvious here, but that's the scary bit of that part. Card Boy says, collecting my 2014 5 Series tomorrow. I'm going to go for Audi A6 for a change, but then when I drove it, I got a patch on the BMW's drive. BMW is a slightly better drive because it's rear-wheel drive. If you like rear-wheel drive, there's no way out of it. It's a better drive. If you want to just burble down a road, then front-wheel drive is fine. You know, if you just want to just go on down the road. If you want to go down the road very, very fast and totally safe, then Quattro is the best option. That's why BMW are literally with the hammer driving the 4-wheel drive versions of Volvo or BMWs down our neck here. Every time I go near a BMW, it's like, it's got 4-wheel drive. Why is it 4-wheel drive? Why is it just rear-wheel drive? Hi Bob, Annie, this is from Hican. Hican, hello. Any electric car charging solution for apartment without dedicated parking? That is a major hassle, and I know that's the way there's a lot of companies, smaller companies that are looking for funding that are trying to sort that problem out right now, whereby you're not fixed. In other words, there's not a great big plug on the wall that's connected directly to the car. The problem is security here, obviously. You know, if it's a draped cable hanging on the ground somewhere going up to a window, it's a problem. But what I did see on the internet, and I think I saw a YouTube video to go with it as well, which was this solar panel system that's can be temporarily erected beside the car, so it sorts it out from electric, and you park your front wheel on the edge of it, so you have to lift the car to get the solar panel out. But that comes out, it's from your house, obviously, so you're completely charging from electric. I've also seen one of those that attach permanently to a house that drapes a cable down the side wall, which can be extended so it's not fixed to a wall again. So that's the only 2 options I've seen so far, but that doesn't mean there aren't millions of them being researched at the moment. I'd say there are. So there'll be loads more of those coming in. That was for Hican. People in this country are still of the mindset that they have to have diesel regardless of their mileage. Why is this? In the Republic, in this part of the country, it's down to tax. It's down to tax and people's belief, and dealerships. Dealerships have to hold their hand up here and say, well, it's actually our fault as well. Because dealerships will always try and sell a diesel because it's worth more in their figures. And they have more of them in stock for a start. But because the difference in taxing a petrol and taxing a diesel 5 years ago was quite a big difference. Now they're kind of parity because petrol has gotten lower CO2 all the time. If they changed the CO2, because we should have never based the tax on CO2. The Green Party completely screwed us on that one. It should never have been based on CO2. It should have been based on all kinds of other things, but not CO2. CO2 is the least of our worries when it comes to diesel, NOx and all those kind of things are the things that actually kill humans. But it's down to tax, Sean, because people just pick the lowest tax band and they want to go after that, and they'll walk in and go, what's the tax on that car? It's a 3-door car and I have 6 kids. Is that the lowest tax? I'll buy that one. That's what they do. There was talk at some charge points have been removed. Unless, I'd say, Colin, if there was no one using them, and if they hadn't been used since they were put in, maybe, or if they've been damaged, they weren't replaced, or whatever it was. So, yeah, possibly, but it'd be very, very limited. There's still a lot of charge points in this country. When I looked up the map on them the other day, when I had the Hyundai, there was loads of them. Even more than the ones I knew about, there was more. Will Ireland need nuclear power stations? Lee, yes is the answer. Nuclear power is incredibly safe, really, really safe. If you exclude Chernobyl from the equation, we've had no real problems with nuclear power ever, other than pollutants. Now nuclear power stations are cleaning up their act. It's getting safer and safer and safer. It would be a simple idea to put a nuclear power station off the coast of Ireland somewhere, way off the coast of it. We have quite a big border here. Stick it into the sea. Do it properly, do it once, and start supplying Ireland with proper nuclear power. It wouldn't be a big deal, I don't think. Nuclear power stations are really safe. Why is the commercial DOE test not an independent as a car NCT? I believe Bus Éireann do the DOE for their own buses. Tired of seeing children being ferried around in ancient buses. That is a really good question, Paul. I know that in England they have the MOT, which is also carried out by private small certified areas. So you can go to certain garages and get. The big problem was a few years ago, any garage could do it. So you just drive to the guy on the underpass and you have a MOT. In this country, we have the NCT, which covers personal cars, and that's because they want money. And the majority of vehicles on the road in this country, because we're all idiots, are personal use cars. So it's easier to bring in the NCT, and the NCT was covered in a non-commercial sense across the globe or across Europe. But the DOE was always sitting there. It always had to be done. DOE's been around a hell of a long time. But the DOE has come in a long time ago. Now, why they still have certified places, I would imagine it's probably a lobby group, or because no one has looked at it since. But you'll see that'll change over time as well, as people start pointing fingers and going, why? The minute you start asking questions like that of politicians, they'll ask that question as to why that happened too. So ask your local politician. Is public charging for electric cars still free, and for how long? Sean Smith. Good man, Sean. Yes, it is. Currently, charging on the street, so plugging into the thing, costs nothing. Nobody charges you for anything. Plugging in at home goes onto your ESP bill. Okay, so I have a home charge point inside, that does go onto your normal electric bill. It's just like plugging in your phone to charge it. It does the same thing. But charging on the street is free. Parking is not free. So you still have to pay your parking toll. Now, there is no estimate, because the electric regulator and the ESB and all other interested parties cannot come to some form of agreement. There's still no charge. The minute they figure out that there's a lot of cars getting a lot of electricity for free, then they'll start to look at it and go, hang on a second, we should be charging these people for electricity. There's a lot of cars on the road. So it will happen. As to when, that's just a piece of string. It's all down to them little people up in Dublin who sit there day after day, sitting around the table, trying to come to some sort of an agreement. But it is currently free, yes. Hotel charge points with a petrol car parked in the charging spot. I know the feeling. I know you go to a bloody hotel, you see the thing on the map, it takes you straight to the charge point. What do you find? An ICE car parked there for the whole bleeding night. It's a pain. Best thing to do though is to get the extra long charging cable. I know this may sound a really hateful thing to do. You park behind the ICE car. I did this uptown. I literally did this uptown here in Portlaoise. And you stretch the cable and you plug it in around them, and then you just walk away and leave it there. Go home and have a cup of tea, or go up to the local petrol station and just sit there for 3 or 4 hours, because that's how long it takes to charge the bloody cars. It's a shot in the dark. See your loophole in the engines. They must really believe they're a market research company. I don't know what that was in relation to, Daz. Sorry, you had to fill me in. It could have been a question from an hour ago. Or, well, no, from 40 minutes ago. Hi, Bob. Do you think there will ever be any incentives in this year's budget to increase the take-up of EVs on Irish roads? Maybe free parking or road tax? Brendan, I have asked for a number of things. The number one is free parking while charging. Not free parking. That's very different, okay? But while you're plugged into a device to get electric from it, you get free parking. If the car says it's full, in other words, if all those lights come on the dashboard, on the ones on top of the dash, or the thing says it's full, you may get a parking ticket. That's when it expires, free parking. Free use of bus lanes. Currently there are bus lanes all over Dublin and Cork and Galway that are completely not in use, because none of buses are going up and down them. Electric cars could use them just as easily. And the last thing is free tolls. So free M50 toll, free Dublin Port Tunnel toll, free every toll for a period of 3 years, to be revised in 3 years' time. That'll improve the sales straight away. Plus to bring down the motor tax not to abolish motor tax, but to get rid of the motor tax down to a level of about €50, and it's capped for 4 years. Something like that. That would encourage people. I don't know how many plans there are to that. That's what I've been asking for. Hopefully at some point in this budget, some clever minister will have been listening to me along the way and probably will bring it in as if it's his own idea. Hello, Bob. Do you view the car manufacturer's silence on proliferation of speed cameras? I don't think car manufacturers' silence. I don't think car manufacturers really give a crap about speed cameras. Speed cameras is your problem. Speed cameras raise revenue, but it is provable that a speed camera also lowers the speed of the general area that speed camera is in. So there is a bad side and a good side. If you're not speeding, you won't get caught. That is a very crappy way to look at it. Not being on your side, but that's a kind of crappy way to look at it. because these speed vans, particularly the mobile ones, sit in areas that they know they can shoot fish in a barrel. They know. The Gardaí, and I'm not slagging off the Gardaí, they do their best, but they're under pressure as well. They sit on motorway on-ramps, pointing at the back of cars that pass by, knowing that they're going to catch people. The object of slowing people down has always been to prevent speeding, not to catch them. There should be huge alarm bells all over the place about speeding and getting rid of people out of speeding. It's a crazy situation to be in that we have right now, because it is just purely revenue raising for 90% of the time, and then the other 10% of the time is like, oh, well, we definitely speed people down. The problem is not speeding. The problem is paying attention. Most of those ads should end in, you idiot, just pay attention to the road and all will be fine. That's really it. I've seen people on the Autobahn travelling at well in excess of 250, 300 kilometers an hour completely safely because they're paying attention. They've got their 2 hands on the wheel. Look at my videos where it says how to steer a car, how to sit in a car. These are all professional ways of sitting in the car and steering and doing all their stuff. So, you know, check them out. Learn how to do things and you'll never crash anyway. Just zooming back up. Hang on, I'm after missing a pilot. Oh my god, there's so many questions. Hi Bob, here. About the Mazda 3. Just follow up. Just would say Mazda 3 drives better than a Golf. I won't say a Mazda 3 drives better than a Golf. I'd say a Mazda 3 drives a little bit more sporty than a Golf. You can point it a little bit better. It can grip on a corner a little bit better, but the Golf gives more reassurance. Kind of, and it's a bigger car. As a driver's car, I would, if I was to say pick one to go driving around and do some laps and things, I'd probably pick a Mazda 3 because they handle a bit more sporty. But if I was actually going to own a car for a long period of time, I probably would go the Volkswagen. Niall O'Keefe. Hi Niall, how are you, man? I used to work with Niall. Niall's a DJ and he's also a sound engineer. The suggestion has been made to drop the motorway speed limit in Ireland by 10 kph. I think it would daft myself, wouldn't have any thoughts. From your time-lapse things that you do on the way into work, you definitely don't do 120 kilometers an hour at the moment, so I don't think 110 is not going to work. It's an environmental factor. It's the drop down the amount of CO2 put out by a car. When a car drives slower, it puts out less CO2. It lowers the overall country CO2. It's probably something that's been muted by the government to distract you from something else, like average speed cameras on the M50. The government got away with putting average speed cameras in the Dublin Port Tunnel. I guarantee the next thing that the RSA is going to do is look to reduce the speed limit on the M50 in certain situations to 60 kilometers an hour and to put in average speed cameras on the M50 because it's an absolute car park and they don't want to spend any more money on putting another lane in because they're cheapskates. But lowering it by 10 kilometers per hour will have a good environmental impact. It'll also have a terrible impact on trying to get across the country. I drove down to Clare 2 weeks ago. It took me about 2 hours to get there. Never broke a speed limit single time once. 120 kilometers an hour all the way there. It would have taken me 2.5 hours or nearly 3 hours to get there at 110. So it adds a lot to the journey if it's a long journey. I can't pronounce her name, but a 1989 Cooper 300 Golf or Audi S3 in your opinion, thinking about the whole package, quality, value for money, equipment, specs, etc. Audi S3 without a question of a doubt. If you're starting to look at quality, whole package, all that sort of stuff, buy an S3, but buy it in a saloon. It's an amazing thing to drive. It sounds amazing. It feels like a big, fast production Audi car, but yet it's quite small inside and snug and it feels good when you're driving along. So Audi S3 and that one's easy. Thank you for such an easy question. It's so rare to get the easy questions these days. Don't forget to click that like button when you're here, just while you're at this. And you can do, I believe, super chat on this live stream today. I didn't know you could do this, but I was told by YouTube all of a sudden that super chat is available in Ireland, and so you can just somebody click the super chat button and tell me what happens. I don't know what happens. How does it charge you money? But you can sponsor this channel, keep it free, go into patreon.com/thenextgear. If you don't want to do that, you can do super chat here, or you can do PayPal in a one-off payment. BobFlav@thenextgear.com is my email address. You can send me money through PayPal, whatever way you want. But just click the super chat and see what happens. What comes up? I can't because I'm in the middle of this. What improvements would you like to see in EV infrastructure? Personally, I'd like to see much faster chargers, 5 to 10 minutes. I would happily pay to charge my car if it only took a few minutes. I don't know if you can actually drive electricity any faster into a battery than it already has been driven in. Think of how many stories we had in the last couple of years of batteries, you know, phone batteries expanding and blowing up and burning houses down and stuff. That's electricity being forced in too quickly, and it forces and a fault within the battery, obviously, and battery controller and things, and it makes the battery swell. So imagine what that would happen if you've got a few thousand of these little batteries in the floor of a car and you start driving electricity even quicker. So that's a problem. I don't know if it ever gets to 5 to 10 minutes charging on electricity. That's why I think we're going to have to find a different fuel to go further. Or we're going to have a eureka moment where all of a sudden somebody goes, wow, I have the solution to everything, and off we go again. And that would be brilliant, but I'm not too sure that's going to happen. Hey Adam, how are you? In the O2 Octavia for sale? I don't know. I'd have to contact Skoda Ireland for that one. It comes out every once in a while and I make a video. I love it. I love the car. It's a great old car, that car. It's a really nice little thing to drive. Really comfortable. Shame there's an air conditioning though. That day I made that film was so hot. I was burning in that car. I am not going to say that, because every time I say that, some other freak comes on there and starts saying stupid crap on the screen. Be cool. Ask questions. It's all okay. Bob, what's it like driving in England during August? Was thinking of touring for a week. Review the sites, not the big cities. If you stick to the south bit of the country, and I'm talking about kind of Welsh, go down around Wales and then across the south border, but stay out of Brighton and places like that. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to go. It's very same as here, only a little bit kind of more English. There's a lot of little villages and little towns and beautiful places to stop. Don't be afraid of staying in bed and breakfasts and hostelries and stuff. They're really nice, really upmarket compared to the Irish stuff, where you have like little mammy in the corner, but this much more professional over there. And it's very cheap. I'll be honest with you. The exchange rate is pretty good, and it's very cheap in England once you stay out of the big city. London is expensive. Manchester is expensive. Birmingham is expensive. They're all expensive things to go out in. But generally, there's parts on the south part of England, in the Cotswolds and places like that, that is absolutely gorgeous. And cheap. Where am I? Right. Sean says, maybe if charging stayed free, it may push more sales of EV. In fairness, Sean, charging has been free since the invention of EV in Ireland, and it hasn't pushed any sales. So we need something else. But then there's been no advertising around EVs either. A lot of car companies haven't bothered because they didn't bring an EV. Even Peugeot, I drove an electric car belonging to Peugeot, and they didn't bring it over here. Electric bicycles that they had, brilliant. I had some great crack in France on electric Peugeot bikes. The speed of the thing, it was deadly. Just a mention as well, next week sometime, I'm going to meet a man to have a go on some electric skateboards, not just boosted board, but other boards as well. And we're going to look at some drones and things. So if you're any interest in that sort of stuff, I'm just going to go on. It's a sort of a tech yoke, but some other forms of transport that I'm really interested in, because I think the next big fight the car companies are going to have is the final mile. So you drive your car to a Lewis station and you take the Lewis to somewhere, and then how do you get from the Lewis to the end point, the extra 3 or 4 kilometers? It's that final point. So I think electric skateboards, electric scooters, that sort of stuff is all going to start to come in to its own right there. So I'm going next week sometime, I'm meeting a guy, and we're going to go through all the kind of options you can have right now of electric skateboards. So if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll ask him any questions I can possibly find. The questions that you're asking on the screen now will never appear again, by the way. They just go away. YouTube aren't that smart yet. Sorry, Bob. The question was about Volvo going hybrid. I think they must be really backing their research company. I see your loophole in the not making their own petrol diesel engines anymore. Yeah, well, no, it's good that they're going hybrid. I'm delighted for Volvo to make a big decision like that, and it got them a lot of traction on social media and on news stories. I saw it was reported here on the 9 o'clock news as well. So it's like it's a pretty big deal for them to go all hybrid. But then look at Toyota have been had a hybrid version for a very, very long time of all their cars, and now they're pushing even more towards hybrid, including Lexus, who've been doing the same thing. So it's not a new thing, but it's good to see Volvo doing it. I'd be interested to see what their fuel economy becomes, because Volvo cars aren't exactly light now, in fairness. Is it true that German-style plates can't be picked up by the speed cameras? They are also illegal. I don't know if they can be picked up by speed cameras, but there are legislations and there are rules and regulations governing the style of font and the type of plate you can put on your car in Ireland and in Europe, by the way. And those German little sticker things and all that sort of adaptations, they may not be able to be picked up by a speed camera, but you get an angry guard one night who's stopping you because you're taxed, and they'll do you for your license plates as well. So just bear it in mind. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying don't modify your license plate, but just bear in mind there are rules and regulations governing what kind of license plates you can have in your car. Russ says, here in France, the speed cameras have a warning sign. By law, you are warned. That's correct. But then I've also seen speed cameras in trash cans, like a little hole in the side of the camera, a little hole in the side of a wheelie bin. And that's the speed camera. I've seen them in Germany. Average speed cameras on toll bridge seem to be working okay. We should never, never, ever, ever, ever have allowed average speed cameras in any situation at all in Ireland. Average speed cameras do nothing but revenue raise. That is their only purpose. They don't ever speed. They don't do anything. Don't do anything. They're a long way off what it should be. Go and talk to the UK. Go and talk to drivers in the UK, learn how frustrating and how annoying average speed cameras are and how much problems they have caused and how the UK government are currently looking for a new solution to average speed cameras because they've been nothing but a pain in their holes. So if they ever get average speed cameras in the M50, I guarantee they're going to just fork out millions in the first few weeks. That's all that'll happen. Thank you very much for your answer. My question was about the Cooper 300. You've been very helpful. Deadly. Glad I could be of help. Buying a white Beetle Brave, new one, should fit a bonnet bra on long journeys to protect the paintwork. Some say, I've seen this a few times, yeah. There is a good solution that I have seen and it is working. There is a wrap you can do over the front that is exactly the same colour as the paintwork on the car, but it covers all the paintwork in the front with a plastic wrap. And it is really cheap. I think you're talking about like 70, 80 quid. But you have to get it put on properly with like hair dryers and things. And there's professional people to do it, so get a pro to do it. But there are certainly companies that I've seen on the internet in Ireland that that will do this service for you without a shadow of a doubt. So check that out. But the bonnet bra thing is definitely, I've seen them in, where did I see the Halfords or somewhere for those cars, yeah. So if you have a Beetle and you're going on a long journey, yeah, definitely, because it just stops the stone chips as well though. Catching up. Thank you very much. I've done that one. I burnt down a house once, says Max. Good man, Max. On clicking Super Chat, introducing Super Chat. Chat is a new fun way to connect with the creators you love. It's very American, isn't it? When you buy a Super Chat, your message will be stand out amongst the crowd. Andy, you must have clicked the Super Chat. I don't see a message stand out. Hello, hello, hello. Good man. What's the crack, Bob? Hi, Darren. Bob, why cars in the N9? We're just answering the question of what happens when you click a Super Chat thing, because you can use Super Chat in Ireland now. So you can click on Super Chat and actually give money to the channel, right? So it goes into the monetization stuff that YouTube already do, and it's cool. It's a simple way of doing it because it's already there. So you're kind of paying for it to be ad-free is essentially what you're doing. So if you want to click the Super Chat, you can. If you don't want to do that, click the like button. For God's sake, click the like button, because then it tells everybody this is going on. That's 2. 3, you can go to patreon.com/the next gear and you can give money there, which is a monthly fee. If you want to do like a €1 a month or €2 a month or €5 a month, that's fine. If you don't want to do that and you just want to do a once-off payment, go over to PayPal and you can go bobflav@thenextgear.com and you will find me there. Bob, why are cars in Northern Ireland and the UK way cheaper and more equipped compared to your I? Well, they are and they aren't. Right, so this question comes up a lot. You will find a bargain everywhere if you look hard enough. That's usually my stock answer for this, right? So if you look hard enough at the UK market, which is insanely competitive, you will find a bargain car. Now, that bargain car might be good, might be bad, but it'll probably be equivalent to what you get in Ireland. The thing in the UK is sometimes you will come across one that'll have a leather interior, or it'll have the upgraded sat-nav, or it'll have LED headlamps when we have halogen lamps. It can be, and that can make quite a difference in the price of the car. So that could have been a £2,000 option here, which means the car is £2,000 cheaper in the UK. So on the face of it, it can look like it's a lot cheaper, but actually it's probably about the same. By the time you pay VRT and you probably VAT and you get all this stuff and you pay all the fees and taxes and charges and NCT the car and all that stuff, it'll probably work out about the same as buying at a local dealership. That's not to say you shouldn't invest. I am all into competition. I like competition in the marketplace. I like to see more Irish jobs created, but unless the Irish dealerships are willing to compete on a grand scheme of things, including the UK and Northern Ireland prices, then, you know, they have a lobby group. The SIMI would be quite willing to stand up in the Dáil and go, you know, you should lower the price of tax on things, but they don't. So how about VRT? Let's start with VRT. Why don't we get rid of that price? Get rid of VRT out of the market and you will find that everything will start to balance its way out, Mr. Government. The Midlands is nice and cheap. Nice and cheap for what? For everything, or just nice and cheap? Electric bikes are a great idea. They are dead. Honest to God, I drove three Peugeot ones. There was a sport bike, an off-road one, like a proper off-road bike. But if you just start to pedal, the electric thing cuts in, and it was brilliant. So next week I'm going to be testing some of that stuff. There'll be all sorts of scooters and things that I don't know what's going to be there, to be honest. The Peugeot e-Kick scooter isn't allowed here. I think the uncertainty of charging doesn't help either. We have laws, weirdly, we're ahead of the posse. We have laws on electric vehicles. Not just electric full-size vehicles, but any vehicle that can be powered up to a certain horsepower and speed and things. There's all sorts of stuff. So you know those little invalid carriages things that they have for either old people or sometimes just giant fat people in Texas, where they twiddle the handle with four wheels and one of them things. That has to be licensed here. You have to get a special license here. So that happens, and that's what happens as well when you get an electric scooter. You got to get a special license here, including possibly boosted board, although nobody's done it yet. And I do know 4 owners of boosted board in this country. In Greece, the Volkswagen importing company and the private electric company have an offer for an e-up for $19,990 and a few free wall plug and some percentage off power bill every month for a year. That sounds all right. Electric up is great. Great little car. Well, an up is a great little car. Electric up is just an up electric. See the difference. That'd be the car I'd probably go for us here. Electric up. There's just mileage is so low. It'd be fine. Easy way to go, all electric car companies stop making engines, then the governments will have to put a charging in place. Yeah, but they won't do that because demand, like electric cars won't suit fleet companies, won't suit sales reps, won't suit people who drive very high mileage. You think of Europe. If I want to go from Berlin to Paris, I can probably do it right now in an afternoon or a little bit more than an afternoon. You'd be driving on into the evening, but you'd get there and you could do it on one shot, one tank of diesel. Electric probably take 4 or 5 days just to get there. You just couldn't do it. You just have to stop and charge, and then figure out what card to use, what plug to use. It's still a mess, and that was the point of the Hyundai video. It's still a mess. Even in this country with only one single supplier of the electric company, we still have 3 plugs. Still have to choose this, choose that, choose something. Have to know what that means, know what this means. It makes no sense. That's what the whole point of that electric video done, by the way. It seems to be a good idea, but I think the best idea is CNG. What's CNG? Hi Bob, do you prefer driving a manual or automatic car as your daily driver? An automatic, 100%. Current new ones are brilliant. Now I can't speak for the longevity of them. I'm not going to tell you that they're indestructible, that they won't break down or whatever. But I think manual gearboxes give as much trouble if they're treated badly as DSGs and all. But automatic, they're so good, particularly DSG, particularly Ford Power Shift as well as a very, very good gearbox. Always has been rock solid, but tends to be overlooked in this country because we have an issue with electric car or with the gearboxes. Electric cars don't have a gearbox, so that's always useful. Hello Bob, one more question if I may, of course you can. Given the choice of Peugeot 508 or Volvo S60, both 2014 and 2-litre diesel, which one would you go for? Volvo S60. 508 is a beautiful, beautiful car, designed fantastically, so comfortable to drive, but when you live with it, you find that there's no storage points in the cabin, there's nowhere to put your bloody phone, there's nowhere to put a bottle of water, everything's so tight. I don't know why they did that. And yet the 3008 is the complete opposite. You could put a fridge into the thing and you still have room to sit there and drive. But Peugeot completely messed up on that 508 and any of the versions of 508. Cabin storage is terrible. The Volvo S60 has tons of room in it. Loads of places to put everything in it. You'll be happy out without a shadow of a doubt in an S60. So that's my choice for that one. That's only long term, by the way. If you like the look of the 508, it is a gorgeous car. Brilliant engine, 2.2-litre diesel, really good. Hi, someone called Hanukkah is answering Andy Evans' question. I like it. Good lad. That's the kind of thing we do here, you see? That's the kind of community we have brought about. 1 hour in and we're answering each other's questions. Brilliant. CNG is compressed natural gas. Yes, of course. We have natural gas here as well. LPG, I think we call it here. Never really took off. You can also do other stuff. Like I remember a few years ago, we could get chip fat and put that into diesel engines. was possible if you cleaned it enough. Diesel engine will run, well, old diesel engines will run on pretty much anything. They will. They were originally invented to run on peanut oil. That was what they started out to be, but of course that was nearly unavailable, so it's much easier to find diesel and make that work. So that's what diesel is. Why diesel's there. Plus it's called diesel because your man was called Mr. Diesel. There's his name, German dude. Don't forget to click that like button there, people, which is always wonderful. You can also go over to patreon.com/the next gear, and you'll find a way to submit money to keep the channel free and support as much as you possibly can, which allows me to be able to say whatever I want to say about cars without worrying about the advertisers, because I don't have any advertisers. This is what disconcerts a lot of car companies in this country, that they can't, you know, give some advertising money to me. And you go, I don't have any advertisers, which is kind of good. But you can also do super chat right now on this channel, which I did not know existed until a couple of days ago when YouTube emailed me when super chat is available, which has been really good. But YouTube is usually used as a communication, but they're actually pretty good at that. What did I hear about what did you hear about the magic tractor? It drove down the road and turned into a field. That was nearly funny. I thought it was nearly a question there. Compressed natural gas and LPG is liquefied petroleum gas. Correct. You're right. I still can't pronounce your name. How do you pronounce your name? It looks like a Russian name, but it's not. The Baker says, say Toledo. I searched your channel but didn't find a video. Have you reviewed it? Both the Toledo 1.6 TDI and Golf 1.6 TDI are in the shortlist. What would you choose? 1.6 TDI diesel engines are currently on recall. Just be aware of that there is a major fix going on with the 1.6 TDIs. I saw that on the list the other day. But besides the major recall thing that's going on, the Seat Toledo is a good car, but oddly shaped. It's a Leon that looks like it's after getting a bit of an extension on the top of it. You know, it's Donald Trump's hair sitting on top of a Leon. It's, yeah, nice car, not bad. It's a bit old at this stage, but I don't know. I'd prefer to go for a Golf, if I'm honest. I think the Golf has been pleasantly nice all the way through. So I'd go with Golf, but it's pretty much 50-50, depends you want more room. Why do you think LPG conversions never took off with petrol engines? Lack of knowledge, number one. Everybody was going, like taxi drivers, you should get LPG, but not telling anyone how to do it. Loss of boot space was another one, because like the LPG conversion took over a big chunk of a boot, which is why some taxi drivers would buy a Volvo and then put it into the boot of that. Safety, another one, and then just lack of fuel. Petrol stations just started taking out the LPG pumps, and that meant the lack of fuel just wasn't there anymore. So it just never really got going. Like I said, we still have to go towards that one fuel source again. We went after it, you know, less than 100 years ago. We went petrol, diesel, and that's it. Then electric now is starting to come into it, and that's another fuel source. But we need another one. We can't just do all electric. That's not going to work. We need another fuel source, like hydrogen, like nuclear power, like whatever it may be. But there's another fuel source out there that has to be gotten before we can go any further with this. Electric is not the only answer. Okay, so we're back to the importing English car question. And we have examples. I like a man who comes with examples. For example, on Dundee, a BMW 435i petrol M Sport from 2014. The asking price is $23,450 in England. But the same BMW 435 diesel, no petrol in Northern Ireland, is asking 40 grand euro. Right, so let's be logical for a second. Think about this. You're looking at two different cars. That's the first thing, right? You're looking at petrol and you're looking at diesel. Diesel is always about 1,500 to 3 grand more expensive, just exactly the same spec. That's number one. And I know I'm probably frustrated a little bit, but I tend to just look flatly at things because journalism does that. You just look flatly at stuff. Two, the asking price of 40 grand, convert 40 grand into sterling, right? And you're left with probably 28, 29, about say somewhere in the region of 30,000 euro, right? And then you have VRT in the middle of that as well, right? Because that price is shown in England is 23,450, but the VRT is not paid on that. So we take your 435i petrol 2014, bring it over to, you buy it for 23,450, you bring it to Ireland, you pay the VRT, whatever that may be. It'll be 8%. 12%, it could be anything like that, of the value of the car. That brings that price up to 28, 29 grand. You're now in the same region as that 40 grand BMW from the diesel version of it? If it was petrol, it'd be less. Is the spec any better? There's a lot more to it than just kind of looking at those two examples straight off. So if you want to get in touch with me after the show, if you want to do that, we can go through it in a bit more detail. We can go through each example of it. I do recommend people look at the UK to get a price idea of what the car is worth out there. I don't condone this idea that the RSA put out or that the SIMI put out continuously on Spotify. You have your car checked by the local dealership before you buy it. Look, use your head. You know what you're doing. But get in touch with me after the show. Bob Flavin at thenextgear.com. I answer every email. I answer every bloody question. Don't forget the super chat is there. You can hit the super chat button. Whatever that does, we were given an example of earlier on. Something comes up in the window and you click on something else and you submit money and money comes up on the screen there. Something like that. If not, you can go to patreon.com/thenextgear. But above all, click the like button. Wherever the like button is there on my screen, but I don't know where it is on yours. Click it anyway. George is our Greek. George has a name that I could never pronounce because it's in Greek. So his name is George. We're sorted, George. Hi Bob, recently ordered a new Comfortline VW Tiguan. Good choice. I have to say I had a terrible experience at the dealership. Most of the salesmen knew less about the car than I did. Unfortunately, that is a problem and has been a problem for years. A car salesman is a very special breed of person. Really is. They tend not to think of cars as a pleasure. They think of cars as a commodity. And so they generally are not really aware of all the options and all the things around. They just want to know what sells and what they have in stock. It's like walking into a sweet shop and going, what kind of potatoes used to make those Pringles? Don't know. They're Pringles. Buy them. That's kind of what a car dealership is like. So generally, right now, what is happening more and more and more is that customers are walking in. I've had guys ring me up and go, I'm looking at a video of you driving a car. What is that car you're driving? And that's from a dealership, asking me what's going on with this thing. Because this guy is more informed than the dealer is because of journalists and because of reviews and because it's getting more technical and because there's more technical information given out by the car manufacturers. You go to Audi.ie or Volkswagen.ie or Ford.ie, there's a ton of technical information available right there on their own website. But yet their dealerships are not, the sales staff are not getting that same, are not doing the same thing and not learning a bit from that. So your experience in a dealership is not unusual. It has happened and I've had many complaints about dealerships. There's very little you can do to change it because a good car salesman will always be employed. Russ says, yes, future diesels running on rapeseed and sunflower oil. In the past, my old Renault 19D ran on cooking oil and smelled nicer. Correctamundo. I know a guy who had a Mercedes, I think it was an E300 or a 3 something or other, ancient old yoke, and he ran it every day on leftover chip fat from the local chip shop. That's no joke. He used to strain it at home into a big vat thing and he'd strain it through again and put it into the car and stink the place out with the smell of fish and chips. Berlin to Paris in 4 to 5 days. Come on, Bob. Between the fast chargers and a little planning, it's easy achievable in a few hours extra. I don't believe you, Barry. I don't believe you. I know fast chargers are good and they say get you 80% of the battery in 20 minutes. I don't believe a word of that. Anytime I've ever charged at a fast charger, it's always taken way more than 20 minutes to get to 80%. It usually takes half an hour to an hour. You want an hour to get a full charge. You're going to have to drive slower. Every time I've driven on a motorbike, an electric car, unless it was that Hyundai, I've noticed the electric starting to go down because it just never has a chance to get regenerative power going. You're always slowing down in an attempt to get a little bit more electricity. I do believe you will definitely get there, but I do think it's going to take a long time. I'd like to put it to test. If any car company, seriously, if any car company wants to approach me and say, drive from Berlin to Paris in our electric car and you can do it in 1 day, I will take that challenge up and I will video it and we'll put up here online. I'll prove what I'm talking about. There we are, right, okay. How about an electric E-Type Jag? Electric E-Type Jag? E-Type? E-Type's long gone. But yeah, well, if you're talking about the current model Jags, there will be an electric Jag out soon, without a doubt. Once people demand it, it'll be made. Once a car company, so a car company has to pay for CO2 every year for their fleet, not just the fleet, but also the factory and other stuff around the edges of it. So if they lower their CO2, they have to pay less to the EU in tax. And so that's why they all want an electric car. Bob, unsure if you reviewed the MX-5. I certainly did. I was unable to find a video. Just go to the search box and type MX-5. Just like Mazda, and you bring up all the Mazda ones. Have you ever driven a new one yet? The Cabrio and the RF. Which one would you prefer? I had to buy. I drove the new one at an event recently, and I drove the new. Yeah, I have had a couple of spins in it. I know this may sound like Mazda. I don't want to hear this, but go back a generation and buy that one. It's nicer. Just saying, even go back a couple of generations and buy that one. It's always going to be a compromise with a Mazda MX-5. There is only 2 seats. There is a dingy little boot and a tiny little engine as well. My current thinking is I can, if you're going to go that route, I would probably steer towards the Fiat. What's the Fiat version of it called? Whatever that was. There's a review with that up there as well. It has a 1.4 turbo petrol engine. Lovely little car to drive. It still has the compromise factor, but it has the fuel economy on its side. Mazda MX-5 is a wonderful car, wonderful historical piece of equipment. But with every generation they come out, they lighten the nuts and bolts and screws, make the windows thinner or something to make it lighter, faster, whatever. Go back and save your money. Go back a generation and buy the older one. You're getting basically the same car. But yes, MX-5 is a lovely car. But no petrol car in ROI, I don't like the diesel at the very example. I know what you mean. I know what you're on about. But you get my point that what I'm trying to tell you is that it's not always as straightforward as it looks. It's not just taking 20 grand sterling and 40 grand euro and going, that car is obviously cheaper. There's more to it than that. It's a little bit more complicated than that. You will save money if you buy in the UK, but you have to be really smart doing it. I mean, you have to be really smart and get the best bargain ever. It can be difficult to save money by importing from the UK. Don't forget, car companies brought in VRT in this country through Bertie Ahern and everybody else. They brought in VRT to protect them from people going to the UK to buy cars. Thanks for your advice on the 1.6 TDI recall and Toledo Golf. Do you know if the call is emissions or performance related? It is emissions related and shouldn't affect performance that much, but it is emissions, and I think it affected that 1.6 TDI more than the other engines. When all batteries become the same and the interchangeable, then it should drive through a station and have your battery charged at a charge or drive through. Yeah, that'd be ideal. Actually, 5 years, more than 5 years ago, 6-7 years ago, Eric Basset, who used to be the managing director of Renault Ireland, stood on the stage in front of me and said he was going to bring in battery swap stations in Renault dealerships across the nation. And the idea was you drove your electric Renault Fluence across the country, and you drove from Dublin and you went to Newbridge and you're out of electricity, and you drove into a Renault dealership and they would drop the battery out of the floor and put in a new battery, all full, away you go again. That was the plan, and you paid the lease on the battery to get that service. That never happened. Turned out that was kind of all lies, in fairness. Nothing like that ever happened or ever came close to it. They scrapped that whole idea, but they kept the lease idea, which has failed miserably as well. Leasing the battery Renault didn't really work, didn't really take off. And so that idea has been around for a while, this idea of dropping the battery out of the car and put a new battery in. I don't know if it's ever going to come about that way, but we'll get around there. We'll see where it has to go. Right now, people like to own the car, and that's the end of it. Right, still running around. Yeah, right, we're here. Woo, we're back. We're starting to catch up. Sean says, "What are your thoughts on a Dacia Sandero Stepway?" Thanks. If you really need a car, you really want a new car, and you want the cheapest possible thing you can buy, sort. That should tell you everything you need to know. Dermot Walsh could be onto something. A removable plug and play common cell to be paid in for the same way as gas cylinder where you exchange with the old one, maybe just 100 kilometers extra range part. That's what I was just talking about, which is the interchangeable batteries, or some way that you can get charging without having to stop would be useful as well, or at least only having to stop 5 or 6 minutes. Would be really nice. The salesmen in the UK dealerships are much better informed. Not only that, but they are also encourage you to take more options by informing you about them. That is correct. I have dealt with UK dealerships as well over the years, and I found most of the UK dealerships are full of petrol heads. They're full of lads who actually love cars, that are in the job because they love cars, not because they necessarily love sales. There might be something in that to learn from a car dealership here in Ireland. The big thing here in Ireland is that people want you to come, if you're looking for a job as a salesman in Ireland, if you have a book of cars you've already sold and contacts and details and that sort of stuff. That's the way to go about it. But in the UK, dealerships are very different than they are in Ireland. We have main dealers here, where a Volkswagen dealership is, you walk in, they're all specialist Volkswagen guys or whatever, you know, and those guys are a little bit different. But definitely, you know, hiring petrol heads to work in car dealerships is always a good thing. Des says, love your work, Bob. Thanks very much. Well done. I'm based on my car and watching your videos. Are you crazy, Des? Are you mad? Sorry, go ahead. It's all right. You'll be fine. Whatever the car is, I'm sure it'll be good. Feel free. Anyone needs to get in touch with me before they go and buy their car. You can email me, bobflav@thenextgear.com. I answer every email, or as many as I possibly can. Don't do it on Facebook. I don't really do Facebook that much. Loads of people send me direct messages, include me in CCs. No, Facebook's for kids. Twitter's okay, you can ask me questions there, but it's very short. I can't really answer the questions much. So email is usually the best way because you want a comprehensive answer, or watch the videos first. I get a lot of questions. We go, hey Bob, sure, I want to see what a Mercedes E-Class is like. And it's just the only answer is going to come back out as a link to the video that I made of Mercedes E-Class or whatever it is. But feel free to ask me questions if you're stuck or you want to get through to something, or you're not too sure what to choose. Come with a list. Don't tell me I have 20 grand to spend. What should I buy? No, that's right. That doesn't work. Dermot Walsh wants to start a franchise with Andy. This is great. The community here is so cool. Such a nice bunch of people. You really are. Don't forget to click the like button. Any thoughts on the Renault Sport Twingo? I'm looking for something small and fun. Do you know what? The smaller and faster the car, the more fun it always is. Every single time. That is a brilliant choice. Renault Sport Twingo from years ago. Also, if you could find the original Polo GTI is a great crack car. That's homicidal maniac car is what that car is. Literally, even the advertising used on television was brilliant. Two really, really good cars. There's a good few old GTI stuff that was brilliant and small. The smaller the better because the lighter it's going to be. Andy and Dermot, Colin has a good suggestion there. A company tried the battery swapping in Israel and failed the business model. That was a Renault company. But yeah, the battery swapping thing is very expensive. I would imagine very expensive. Yes, the Baker recall of 1.6 is both to detune the motor there, not having my Skoda 1.6 TDI. Unfortunately, your Skoda 1.6 TDI is emitting an awful lot of CO2 and possibly other particles that are coming out of the back that could be doing an awful lot of harm to both the environment and the human people around you. So, unfortunately, they say that they detuned the thing, but Skoda themselves and Volkswagen Group in general say it has no effect on the performance. I think it might be an internet myth that there's a little bit of performance problem with it. But then, you never know what way it's going to come out. Just realised the description says, chat about electric cars. There you are. You see, it's all about electric cars today. Oops, completely missed it about electric cars. You can ask any question. Like, we talk about everything so far since I started chatting. Electric cars has just been one of them. Hi, Bob. Is Citroën dead in Ireland? I love that. A lot of dealerships have closed over the past decade. I would have thought Citroën would have been a big part of the EV market. Thanks, Brendan. Brendan, Citroën have gone through a lot in the last few years. They've been bought out. They've been bought out again. There's a company in the UK is after buying out Citroën Ireland, because Citroën Ireland was not Citroën. Citroën Ireland is part of a bigger group in the UK. And so there's always what they call rationalisation. So they get rid of some of the models, they get rid of some of the dealerships that aren't performing strongly. And sometimes Citroën, well, car companies do this a lot, they don't want to compete with each other in a dealership. So if they open a dealership in a Citroën, they don't want Hyundai or Peugeot or someone in the same dealership. So multi-franchise stuff, they don't want that in there. And so that makes it very difficult for Citroën to compete in an area. And they might close the dealership, and that might be the end of it. But the most important part for Citroën is not dead, for sure. That's an absolute positive. They are going strong. They have changed the models to DS and Citroën, which are two different things. So DS is like the luxury brand, and Citroën is more the kind of bread and butter brand. But they're not dead. But they're obviously car sales are a difficult thing to do at the moment because it's down everywhere, and if you're already down, you're going to be down even more. Thank you for the good answers, Bob. Really enjoyed your conversation. See, conversation what it's all about, guys. Hi, Des Burns. You said you based your car buying on Bob's video when I asked what car. Yeah, that's a good question. What car did you buy there, Des? Or what car are you buying, Des? Do you know what site in the UK called Car Wow? I do. Does Matt Watson do videos for them? I think. I hope something good like that would be available here in Ireland. It wouldn't work, you see. The problem is the UK is such a giant market. All the cars that are sold in Ireland in an entire year are sold by one dealership in Manchester in the first half of the year. So the scale of production is a completely different animal. We count ourselves in Ireland having big car sales. We're such an important group and things. It's a fraction of a thing across Europe, which is why no one ever understands. Well, you know, the UK is there beside you. Sure, deal with them. And so I'm not entirely sure whether a thing like Car Wow would ever survive here. But it's great. Car Wow is very good. I like Matt's. A little bit too commercial for me, but I like Matt's things. Like click here for more information on the latest thing or whatever, you know. Cheers, Bob and Russ. Couldn't give two hoots about emissions. We'll still buy a 1.6 TDI for MPG. Reliability and longevity. Bob, the Skoda Passat is the CT. It's CT in France, and last autumn the French safety test with flying colours. What? Skoda passed its CT in France last autumn, and the French safety test with flying colours. I'm sure it did. Refers to 1.6 TDI recall and claims a reduction in performance and more commonly claimed premature EGR valve failure. BBC iPlayer has the episode of Watchdog covered in a matter a couple of weeks ago. That's really good that Watchdog is covering it, but like I say, I don't know if I can actually put great credence on something and then go, that's definitely the way it is. Sure, you have to go by what the manufacturer says, but you also have to take it with a grain of salt. They are trying to make up ground on their recalls and trying to get things back the way it should be, and trying to put things back in place without lying and covering up and doing other stuff. So it's all a complete mess. German car manufacturers now under investigation for all sorts of other fraud or cartel or something going on since the 90s. I read on Jalopnik last night. It's just getting into a mess, and they really need to sort it out. But when you have an industry that is like the second biggest thing that Germans do, which is Volkswagen, the car industry, then it's a very difficult place to be. I have two kids here with me today, which is great crack. My two kids are here as well. They're happy to go to the front. Des Burns says, I first downsized from an E-Class 220 estate to a great VW high up, and now it's to White Beetle based on Bob's advice. God help me. Des, I hope it all worked out for you. The Up is a great one. That's a brilliant car. Beetle is a really nice. I like Beetle. So many people don't like the Beetle. I do like the Beetle. It's a great little car. I had one a couple of weeks ago. A kind of a gold colour thing. It was really pretty. That's a beautiful car. Have you checked out the Infiniti Q60? It's a beautiful piece of machinery. It is pretty looking. Infiniti is not in Ireland. Infiniti is an American brand. It's not in Ireland, but it is a very pretty looking car, yeah, definitely. Gorgeous. Hopefully, I have answered as many questions as I possibly can on the EV front of things for you today. And just to recap on that, for people who joined at the last, I put out a video a couple of days ago. It was the Hyundai Ioniq, and I had a problem with electric car charging. It was a tongue-in-cheek thing, which is meant to be a tongue-in-cheek thing as well. It was meant to be kind of funny, kind of interesting way of seeing what happens when you go to a charging station. It was never designed to be like, you know, you don't know what you're doing anymore. Of course you don't know what you're doing. If you have to go to a charge station and you plug in an electric charge point and then you're presented with 3 choices of charging, that doesn't make any sense. Why do I have to choose anything? Why don't I just plug in and then it delivers the bloody power? That can't be a difficult thing for it to do. Surely it knows what plug was plugged into what car. If you can transfer electricity through that gigantic cable that comes out of that thing, surely you can transfer a little bit of communication between the car and the machine, and it will deliver the correct power depending on what's been plugged in. That was my point. The other point was, can you imagine going to a petrol station and presented with a bank of petrol pumps for individual cars? So here's one for Nissan, here's one for Volkswagen, and you have to find the one you're looking for and plug in the right thing at the right time and deliver the right fuel. That would make no sense. That's why you go to a petrol station, you got petrol, diesel. End of story. That's it. Everything else is over the other side of the petrol station, like LPG or, you know, a commercial diesel or red diesel or any of that sort of stuff is off over the other side of the petrol station. But the main stuff is sitting just petrol and diesel. Electric car companies, number one, you have to make good cars. Number two, you have to make cars that are affordable for the consumer. 3, you have to make it as simple as possible to use. Simplicity is everything. The people who make the charge stations, if you don't attend that UI, it's going to end in disaster. When you plug in the wrong plug and press the wrong thing at the wrong time, it says the charger's at fault. That means I'm going to switch off straight away. It makes no sense. That should tell me you're an idiot. You plugged in the wrong thing. You pressed the wrong button. It should tell me. We live in 2017. This is not a hard thing to do. The UI should be sorted out on that. It's horrible for a car company to just go, yeah, plug into any of those charge stations. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. That UI was dreadful. When you plug in a charge cable into the car, it should detect what has been plugged into, how much power it needs, all the information comes up, and it should tell me on the screen, you're going to be 2 hours. It should tell me on the screen, come back in 2 hours. Come back in a half an hour, I'll have you 50% charge. Come back in 2 hours, I'll have you sorted out. That's it. That's all I want to know. I don't want to press buttons, I don't want to select power, I don't want to do anything. It should just happen for me. And there ended the rant. That's what high on it. Some of you got it, I have to admit. Loads of you, loads and loads and loads of you clicked the like button and watched the video and commented below and done lots of comments, loads of comments, and that's what I love, a little bit of debate and everything else. Some of you didn't get it. Some of you are just too ticked to get it. Some of you just don't want to watch that. Some of you just looking and going, some of you got all racially abusive about the whole thing, which is quite okay too. I like it. That's fine. That's all right with me. But it's debate. I got you to watch it. I got you to think about electric cars. That's what was the whole point of that. First off, was to get you to think about electric cars. That was very important. And that's what happened. I opened the debate for you. Don't forget to click the like button if you just dropped in here out of the internet somewhere. Is there an issue at all with buying a Vauxhall in the Republic of Ireland instead of an Opel spec? No. They're exactly the same car, Opel and Vauxhall, just called Vauxhall in the UK. The only difference is the badges. The badges are all different. And some of the spec changes a little bit as well. But Vauxhalls are not for sale in Ireland brand new from an Opel dealership, or shouldn't be. And if they are, then Opel Ireland are playing a very funny game there. Although I have seen brand new Vauxhall, you know the van, what's Movano, is it called Movano? And the ESB had them. The Electricity Supply Board are actually here to have a head office here in Portlaoise. And I saw them here in their car park. Vauxhalls, brand new 171s or 162s or something. But no, there's no problem with buying a Vauxhall here. It'll be under the same pan-European warranty as it is anywhere else. Spec is higher on a lot of Vauxhall cars. It is slightly higher. It can be, sometimes it can be a lot higher, in fairness. Sometimes there's sat-nav involved in things. There's a few other bits and pieces. On the EV things, would you buy an electric Volkswagen Caravelle over a diesel if you could? Would seem good for touring Ireland, but perhaps not as good for a long EU tour between stops. That's a very heavy vehicle to be electric. Power to weight ratio, we're back to that same thing. Unless the electric battery can push that huge, like a Caravelle is like 2.5 ton. Unless that's without batteries, that's what a normal ICE engine is. I would imagine the diesel ones would probably stick around in the bigger cars for a while yet. But if there was a short, if you needed to drive the kids to school or whatever, electric, yeah, no problem. But touring Ireland, don't know. The EV supply should be universal. Correct, Russ. Unlike the mix of cables of phones and computers and TVs and have a heap of cables hanging around. I have a heap of cables. I have a heap of cables. Look. Look at this. Right here in my computer, actually not in my computer, plugged into my wall, I have 2 USB cables. Right? One black, one white. There's the 2 standard ends on it. That fits everything. Everything. The other end of the cable, this end, is completely different. As you can see there. One is actually USB and one is for a phone. Right? So that charges my GoPros, that charges my phone. Now, can anyone explain to me why car companies can't do that? If they want to have different plugs or whatever on it, just put a different end on it, but this end should all be the same. And even if you take that a step further, when I plug, if I took this phone, this is a phone I'm talking about right now, so this is an iPhone, right? If I plug that into a PC, which is not, they're not compatible, iPhones and PCs, they don't get along. But yet, if I plug that phone in right now into a PC, it will charge it, number one, without question. It'll immediately supply electricity to it and allow it to be charged. And number two, the computer will go, what do you want me to do with this iPhone? And iPhone will go, do you want me to connect to this PC? And you select yes and no, or whatever you want to do on the 2 machines. And therefore, you've created this, they've communicated with each other and they ask you what to do. Now, you go up to an electric fast charge station in Ireland and that doesn't happen. Nobody communicates with anybody. Nobody cares. Plug it in, pull out this 50,000 volt, whatever the hell it is, plug it into your car, and the two of them go, did you plug me into something? Done nothing about it. You want me to do what? Charge it? No. Select what kind of power you want first. Do you want that power, that power, that power? You tell me. It just makes no sense. Sorry, I'm just plugging in my phone here for a charge. Make sure there's plenty of electricity going into it. That doesn't seem to be working. That's not very good, is it? Oh, no, we're off. We're getting there. That old charger's had it, I think. Right. Cadboy's got to go. He enjoyed the video though. Thanks very much, Cadboy. You're right, Bob. You can do it when any device is plugged into a computer. Things need to catch on. You see, Rob, you guys get it. A lot of you guys, like I said from that video, a lot of you guys got that video straight away. You knew I was having a laugh. You knew I was joking. You knew I was messing around with it. You knew I was taking it further than I probably should have taken it. But that's my job, is to show you what can happen, how fast things can go wrong for people when they're tired, when they're frustrated, when they're fed up, and all they want to do is just plug the bloody car in and go for a wee or go for a cup of tea or something. That's all they want to do, is just plug in the car and walk away. And I found it very frustrating that I was presented with choices and options and things I had to click and stuff I had to do and open this and then click it again to do something else. It's just kind of annoying. Nick Harding, do you get Renault in Ireland? Yes, Renault's been here probably longer here in this country than it has been pretty much anywhere else in Europe, as far as I know. My father drove a Renault 12, like, don't know. My brother drove a Renault 21, like a lunatic. But if I would install custom exhaust system on my 2355 BMW, would it pass the NCT? No, probably not. It very much depends if your custom exhaust is putting out more CO2 or less CO2 because of the customization. More horsepower would also be a problem too, and noise pollution would be the biggest part. It has to be, there's this decibel level, I forget what it is, but it has to be below that, so if it becomes very buzzy. But I know a lot of guys who modify their car to the last, and just a week before the NCT, take all the modifications off, put it all back to stock, do the NCT, come out of the NCT, put all the modifications back on again. So the NCT is a worthless piece of crap for most parts. Most cars now just don't need it. It's just a revenue raising again. Sorry to burst all your bubbles, but it very rarely actually catches any poor cars on the road anymore. When it was invented first, we all drove around in crap box. I did it as well. Crap cars, crap brakes, spongy brakes, brake pads hadn't been changed in years, drums on the back, drums on the front. We all drove all sorts of crap, and it has to be brought in. But these days, the NCT really, it's just a money-making revenue stream now. My thoughts on plugs come from forklift trucks, have universal plugs and sockets. See, this technology is, our Cartel is absolutely spot on. This technology is years old and has been universal for years. Milk floats, forklift trucks, all these kind of things, they've all got universal. You buy one, the plugs are everywhere. We're making it too complicated, and you guys who thought it was just being a funny video, I'm dead serious. It is too complicated right now to plug in. It's already, you want a slow charge, that's simple. Click, bang, 2 plugs, end of story, it's all done. Go to a fast charger. 3 plugs is too many. It's at least 1 too many. It should be only 2 or 1 preferably. And we shouldn't have a choice of power. There should not be 3 choices on the screen or 2 choices or 1 choice, or there should be nothing. You plug it in, it goes, right, you plug that car in, woohoo, deadly, supply power, end of story. That's all. It's like you have one job to do it. In logistics, lorries have common interface cables for trailers, accessories, ABS, etc., which is ISO standard, and the precedence exists for this. Correct, Andy? There's another one. See? So you have all of these connectors like USB with computers, forklift trucks, trucks that are out there right now with all the connectors for air brakes and everything else. I can bring any truck to any 40-foot trailer and I can connect one to the other. End of story. There is no more story to it. It's very straightforward. And if electric cars go down that route, and particularly the charge stations go down that route, then you will have a proper look and a security of everyone, it being accessible to all. I got a comment a while ago as well. Someone asked me on that Hyundai video how there's an old woman down in Cork or something has a Nissan Leaf. There's an old guy here in the town who's 90, he has a Nissan Leaf as well. And they can charge them. It's fine. I'm not saying it's complicated in that respect. What I'm saying is if you want to expand the reach of EV ownership, and you genuinely want, and I suspect some of you EV owners don't want more EVs in a row, because once they figure out a way of charging for electricity, this is going to start turning to be an expensive thing. You need to change the language. Kilowatt hour and all these things, they don't make any sense to someone who has been driving an ICE engine car for their whole life. It needs to relate to what they've got. You need to look at it and go, this is, okay, there's kilowatt hours. What is that in miles per gallon? Or what is that in something, you know? So there's a way that everybody can get a hold of the technology, get a grasp of a little bit of it, and then they can move into it. Then they can make an informed decision about moving it. But right now, electric cars look like a barrier to people that go and they see these big charge points and go, I have to charge it twice a day. I have to charge it once a week. They don't understand, and you're not helping. The EV owners club who go, this guy's crap, that's crap, that doesn't make any sense, you're useless. That doesn't help. That's not constructive. The constructive thing is to look at how easy it is for you to do it right now versus someone who's never even thought about doing it. Not even a consideration for a moment. Where do I get a card? There's an easy question. I know how to get one of those. I have one of those cards. I have an electric charge card. I think it's in my wallet. I know exactly where to get those cards. But if you were a person right now who decided you want to charge an electric car, I have among all the other IDs. There you are. So I have one. I have the access card. And I know where to get them. But do you know where to get them? And if you don't, well then, you know, there's probably a problem here with the way electric cars are being marketed and electric information is getting out. Merely going to a website, go to usb.ie and charging, you get an answer. That's not a solution. When you're standing on the side of the road at night time and it's dark and you've run out of electricity and it won't go any further and you're thinking, why didn't I read the instruction manual? Is the last thing in your mind. Very same as when you pull over and you got a flat tire and you don't know how, you open a boot and you look in and there's a bottle of stuff inside and you go, what's that for? There's no charging, there's no training course for that either. There's no website you look at, how do I use this thing? It doesn't make any sense. So it needs to be simple. Someone needs to spearhead it. It is not Bobby Llewellyn, although he's very, very good, and that channel, the amount of money that channel gets, really every single month is incredible, and you can see it in the production values. But there are people with a bias towards electric being brilliant. Electric is brilliant. Electric is the best. I'm not a bias towards anything. I think whatever is the best technology out there right now is the one that works. And the one that works right now is petrol and diesel in Ireland. The one that doesn't work 100% yet is electric. There is barriers through education and through the early adopters being very pious and being like, well, we know more. That doesn't make any sense. That is not helping your cause. That is not going to do anything for you. And you will find that the government will come along and they'll penalise you the minute it starts to pick up a bit of steam. Now, sorry, rant over. The added cost that must be passed on to the end user for these cables with the reception, development, design is mad. Will be ultimately take legislation to force hands into being universal. I think it will take legislation for sure to get this moving. But right now, just going down there to that Midway station in Portlaoise, there's 3 cables there and there's 2 spaces and there's 30 grand of equipment and none of it talks to each other. It just doesn't make any sense. An app developer would have a heart attack. I know the guys who develop massive apps in this country, and I'm talking like airline apps and all these kind of big things are out there. And these guys are looking at the UI on that screen, they're laughing their heads off. It's the stupidest thing they've ever seen. So you're at nothing when you go to that. Shurton says, are you really from Ireland? Yes, I am definitely from Ireland, 100%. Like a new run of Irish NCT, I can't remember the time frame but the French CT starts at 4 years old. If every other year we have to display a ticket inside the windshield to prove it's valid. Well, right now, my car is 11 years old and it has to be NCT'd every year. That changed. Just end of story. Once a year now. Like, and that car is treated like gold. Nothing ever happens to that car. It's passed every NCT without me doing a damn thing to them. The only thing I've ever had to do was the brakes once, and Brent Hughes, if you're watching right now, cheers man, sort that out. Toyota dealership did it here, right here in the town. I paid for it, no, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I got it for free on it, but they sorted out the brakes, back brakes, locked up on it one day, and I had to go to the dealership. Do you find, well, that nowadays too many turbocharged cars in the marketplace, really like my 2.5 litre petrol engine, non-turbo compressor either? A turbo will have a longevity. Anything that moves, anything in a car that moves will have a lifespan. There is a point where that lifespan will be reached, depending on how hard it worked and how the acceleration and how it was well serviced and all that sort of, there is a lifespan. So if you put something in that spins really fast, like the modern little 1 litre turbo petrol engines, it probably will have a shorter lifespan than one that has no turbo. But it depends. It's about making the car smaller, lighter, making the engine smaller, lighter, and being able to put out enough horsepower to drive the car on anyway. He is from Ireland, Shannon, despite the posh accent. I have a posh accent? Have I got a posh accent? No way. When do you think EV will take a sales percentage of 50% after 2040? EV would take a 50% sales tomorrow if you change the tax system properly in Ireland. If it becomes an affordable thing, so not just affordable to buy the car, but if you talk to the Irish population and go, you know what, it'll be the lowest form of tax, we'll say €50 a year. Electricity will be free for the first 2 years. You'll be able to park, if you're charging the car, you'll be able to park for free even in Dublin city centre, right in Stephen's Green. If you want to charge the car, pull up there and we won't charge for any parking. And you can use the bus lanes legitimately every morning. I guarantee you 50% boom on the road tomorrow. All the farmers in the country would go for the four-wheel drive versions of it. Teslas would be sold by the bucket load. It would just happen very quickly in Ireland. But no government minister wants to make that decision. None of them want to actually get behind it because it's not a big concern. And also because, and I suspect this may be just as true, because the current owners of EVs are not pushing it either because they get free electricity. They get free fuel right now, today, is free to charge on the street. So, you know, why would you want to upset that apple cart? You want to have free fuel. Of course you want to have free fuel. Don't let too many people into the EV market because it won't be free anymore. So by 2040, I would imagine we're going to be in a very good position by then. I said it'd be a lot quicker. I talk about maybe by 2020, we're going to be seeing a massive push towards electricity. It has to happen. And it's going to continue on from there. So by 2040, if we're not at 50% worldwide, I'd be really surprised. NCT in Ballymun is just a joke, says I can't pronounce your name. But yes, it probably is. NCT everywhere is it's just a form filling, ticking thing. That's really all it is these days. It's a way of earning a bit more money for the government, for Applias Plus, the company, the Spanish company that run the NCT system. It's just a financial obligation thing. It once in a while, look, if a car passed the NCT, do you honestly believe that I would go out and buy that car without further inspection? It could drive out of the NCT centre, park right beside me, you might get out, hand me the cert, hand me the keys, and I'd still get under the bonnet and have a look, make sure there's nothing wrong with it. Because the NCT barely checks. The Ministry of the Bleeding Obvious is what the NCT checks at the moment, right? So that's all it checks. The very obvious things, the brakes, the suspension. And in actual fact, the NCT doesn't test the suspension properly. So what it does is suspension imbalance test, right? So if you've got left and right suspension, if the left suspension is broken and leaking, it will detect that and that's a fault, right? But if both the systems aren't working, but they're working the same on both sides, but they're not working at 100%, it will pass. And that's the problem. So if both shocks are at 50% of their tolerance, they're just that good, but they're both the same, it'll pass. But if one is offset, it'll fail. And so you can have 4 shocks on a car that are all broken, but all the same, and it'll pass. So NCT is not worth a crap, to be honest with you. Hi mate, what do you think of an electric Volvo? Electric Volvos, there's nothing wrong with any electric car, but Volvos tend to be very heavy, and so I would imagine that an electric Volvo is going to be quite hard on fuel. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing to look at, because Volvo will have thought of that, they'll have made the car lighter. But any electric car at the moment is very good for the environment, very good for your pocket, because most electricity, if you're in Ireland, electricity currently is free. If you're in the UK, there's a very special rate for you guys out there as well, so I don't think in some stations are free and some are not. I'm not quite sure 100% on that one, but a lot of it's free. But home charging always costs money because you're plugging directly into your own grid. But if you run on solar panels or on renewable energy for your own house, you could actually charge your car for naught at home as well. Anyway, I think, Russ says EV is likely to be a problem for people that live and work in rural areas. Out of the wilds, there's no internet, even telephone lines in some places. Well, it depends on how far away the 2 points are. So if you're living at home and you're driving to work and you have a charge point at both ends, you'll be fine. As long as there's no more than 150 kilometers between the two, you'll be fine, because the current range is 280 and it's easy. I'm from Croatia, Zadar. We have free electric stations, so it's free there as well. So yeah, well, there you go. You see, starting to get free across all of Europe. Keep it up is the best answer for that one. Anyway. Right, I'm going to leave it there for today. It's 108 minutes we've had today, which has been absolutely fantastic. If you have any further questions with electric cars, EVs, Hyundais, or anything else like that, leave them in the comments below after the video ends. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll have another one next week, I think, next Sunday. I can't remember what's on next Sunday. Maybe something else is on next Sunday. Possibly not. But if nothing is on next Sunday, we will definitely have another show. I might be able to do a show from somewhere else. If you get the chance, you can go to patreon.com/thenextgear and give some money there to support this channel. If you want to do that by PayPal, you just go bobflav@thenextgear.com in PayPal and you can send money that way. Or you can do Super Chat here while it's all live and happening right in front of you. I don't know what that's about. I'm sure that works. I've never had it. It's brand new. But I'm delighted that you all came along to have it. Thank you very much for watching. And until the next time, I will see you on the far side.